Darren Osborne allegedly wanted to kill as many Muslims as possible when he came to London in a hired van last June. He is said to have scoped out several different targets in the capital before heading to Finsbury Park and driving into a group of worshippers outside a mosque. 51-year-old Makram Ali was killed and several others were injured in the attack. Today, the jury was told Darren Osborne was a ticking time bomb after watching a TV drama on the Rochdale grooming scandal and had become brainwashed by right-wing propaganda. He denies murder. Our correspondent Simon Harris was in court.
It was described as London's third terror attack in as many months. This was Finsbury Park in June after a van ploughed into a group of Muslim worshippers during Ramadan. Makram Ali, who was 51, died at the scene. Others were seriously injured. Today, Darren Osborne, a 49-year-old father of four, went on trial, accused of trying to kill as many of the group as possible. The prosecution said Osborne's long-term partner described him as a loner and a functioning alcoholic who became obsessed with Muslims in the weeks leading up to the attack. He accused them all of being rapists and belonging to paedophile gangs. His partner is said to have referred to him as a ticking time bomb.
There's no such thing as a child prostitute.
According to the prosecution, Osborne's obsession was triggered by a TV drama which told the story of girls in Lancashire groomed for sex by gangs of men with Pakistani heritage. At his home in Wales, Osborne is said to have watched the episodes on catch-up. He hired a van and drove to London. A handwritten note found in the van asks, with spelling errors, "Why are there terrorists on our streets today? We've had 3 recent terror attacks. Part and parcel by all accounts, Mr. Sadiq Khan. No, it isn't. How can you let this happen? Think of your children's future. Islam ideology doesn't belong here, and neither does Sharia law." A pro-Palestine march through central London on a summer Saturday afternoon. Nothing unusual or remarkable. But what if Osborne had driven his van into this crowd? According to the prosecution, that's what he planned. But when he got to central London, road closures around Grosvenor Square because of the rally stopped him getting anywhere near it. Afterwards, he's said to have driven to Forest Hill, approaching a man to ask him where the nearest mosque was. Told there wasn't one, but there was an Islamic centre in Lewisham, he went there. Then it's alleged he headed through the Blackwall Tunnel, where he stopped a motorist and asked for directions to Finsbury Park. There, it's said, his search for a target ended shortly after midnight. Mr. Ali had collapsed on the pavement. Other worshippers, leaving nearby mosques, went to help him. They were among the victims mown down that night. Darren Osborne denies murdering Mr. Ali by driving over him, and he denies attempted murder. His trial continues tomorrow. Simon Harris, ITV News.
A gas leak in the middle of London in the middle of the night forced hundreds of hotel guests onto the streets in their pyjamas. Many were on holiday, woken up in the early hours. It also affected commuters, with Charing Cross station closed as firefighters, police and engineers tried desperately to isolate the leak. Simon Harris on the chaos.
They were still wearing dressing gowns and slippers as they were led back to their hotel. Not ideal for a route march through the streets of London. The early hours evacuation saw them taken first to Trafalgar Square and then to another hotel to wait. For Diane Pringuer from Heathfield in Sussex, a night in the West End was supposed to be a birthday treat.
We've been sleeping on the floor in the hotel, all in a big room, everybody all together. It's just been really quite hellish.
It's been horrendous. Woken up at about 2:30 in the morning to shrill fire alarms and leapt into action. Just grabbed what was on the bed, came out, just boxer shorts, a bathrobe, pair of shoes.
It was around 2 in the morning when the emergency services decided to evacuate homes and businesses around Charing Cross because of a gas leak. It meant a rush hour shutdown of one of London's busiest stations. And several hours after the emergency was declared, groups of workers were still huddled on the pavement.
A few of us got let into the building to obviously continue working. And now, about an hour ago, we've all been told to evacuate, and here we all are.
Cold?
Yeah, cold, yeah, and waiting.
This was the culprit, a 4-inch low-pressure gas pipe which sprung a leak. Engineers had to dig through tarmac, rubble and clay to reach it. It's now more than 2 hours since the gas company Cadent told us the leaking pipe had been repaired. But still, Charing Cross station is closed and surrounding streets cordoned off. The waiting continued. gas levels in the station and other buildings were still said to be too high.
We're now checking and making sure that there is no gas in those properties and in the train stations, so that we can then go on to reopen them and bring the area back to normal.
What caused the leak?
I don't know at this stage what caused the leak. That's going to be the focus of our investigation.
Eventually, the area was declared safe, but frustratingly not for everyone.
I've been here for 2 hours. They've now said that they're letting station staff back into Charing Cross Station. I don't know why they can't let people back into the offices at the same time.
It wasn't until midday that the cordon was lifted and trains finally began to roll at Charing Cross. A day of disruption for tens of thousands of commuters and West End workers. And a night some tourists will want to forget. Simon Harris, ITV News, Charing Cross.
To Haringey now, where a multi-million-pound plan to regenerate one of the poorest parts of London has exposed deep divisions within the Labour Party. On one side is Labour's left-leaning National Executive Committee, who wants to halt the scheme. On the other, Haringey's Labour-run council, who's pushing the development through. In the middle are the residents who just want to know what might become of their homes. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
On a windswept Wednesday, the Northumberland Park estate can seem bleak. Haringey Council certainly thinks so. It wants to knock down all 1,300 homes. But like so many estate regenerations, there's bitter opposition from some tenants. Former lorry driver Franklin Thomas has lived here since the 1970s.
We'll just get priced out, they'll come in and they'll regenerate, social housing will lose, and you'll find that the houses in the area, no one except for the rich class would afford to really live here.
The local council is controlled by Labour, but the scheme has caused a toxic split in the local party. Haringey says it just doesn't have enough money to modernise its housing estates. So it's set up a joint venture with the property firm Lend Lease. It's calling it the Haringey Development Vehicle. The council claims the HDV, as it's known, will lead to 6,500 new homes. Up to 20,000 new jobs will be created, and the council could make a profit of £275 million to invest in other services. But opponents who held protests at Haringey Civic Centre accuse council leaders of becoming a law unto themselves.
They've been advised by the Labour parties, they've been advised by every political party not to do it, they've been advised by their own MPs not to do it. They don't listen to anyone, they are not listening to anybody, and they are totally unaccountable.
Now Labour's ruling body, the National Executive Committee, has stepped into the row, effectively calling on council leaders to rethink the plan. But in a statement today, they responded by saying it was the only viable option. Sitting on our hands achieves nothing and is the course of action for which homeless families in Haringey would pay the highest price of all. Becoming homeless is exactly what Lynn Silver Markle fears. She moved to Tottenham after she was widowed to be near her beloved Spurs. Her flat is in the way of the regeneration.
I'm 81. I've strived for 10 years to be nearer the stadium and strive to be comfortable, which I am now because I can afford the money I'm paying rental. And if I moved out, I wouldn't be able to afford it.
Labour has appointed an MP from outside London to try to broker a peace deal. It may be a tall order.
Yeah, the question is, Simon, will it work?
Well, with both sides so entrenched, it's hard to see peace breaking out in Haringey. Some on the left have gone as far as to describe the scheme as social cleansing. And it's fast becoming clear that the whole regeneration scheme is being overshadowed by the Labour infighting. There's been talk of recriminations, intimidation, councillors who support the scheme being deselected, and even talk of a possible attempted leadership coup if Labour retains Haringey in May's local elections. Those opposed to the scheme are pinning their hopes on the outcome of a judicial review, which they hope will finally halt it.
OK, Simon, thank you very much. Well, the capital's housing problems are, of course...
Next tonight, it was a powerful and emotional speech that left some of her colleagues in tears. Baroness Jowell addressed the House of Lords to appeal for more resources and better care for people with cancer. The former Labour Olympics minister and MP for Dulwich has been diagnosed with an aggressive brain tumour. This afternoon, she said she was not afraid and that she wanted to help others like her. She received a rare standing ovation, which lasted more than a minute. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Tessa Jowell has spent her career speaking up for others, first as a social worker, then as an MP. Today she came back to Parliament for what could be her final political battle. In the House of Lords, she told fellow peers how last May she was diagnosed with the worst kind of brain tumour.
I got into a taxi, but I couldn't speak. I had 2 powerful seizures. I was taken to hospital. 2 days later, I was told that I had a brain tumour, a glioblastoma multiforme.
Tessa Jowell has been in politics for 5 decades. She fought the Ilford North parliamentary by-election in 1978 after serving as a councillor in Camden. She spent 23 years as the MP for Dulwich and West Norwood. Tony Blair made her Culture Secretary, where arguably her greatest triumph was playing a pivotal role in London's bid to host the Olympics. In 2015, Dame Tessa became Baroness Jowell. Today, she was watched by the Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt as she made a plea for brain cancer patients to be allowed to undertake faster trials of new treatments.
In brain tumours, your life is actually very limited, and of all those people who are going to be diagnosed this January, less than half will be alive at the end of the year. So actually trials that take 10-15 years are of no use to those patients. It takes a huge amount out of you speaking anyway. With a brain tumour, it makes it really tough, and the fact that she's prepared to do this, it's just not just inspirational, but it's humbling.
Baroness Jowell managed to keep her emotions in check as she told peers, "I am not afraid."
In the end, what gives a life meaning is not only how it is lived, but how it draws to a close. I hope that this debate will give hope to other cancer patients like me, so that we can live well together with cancer.
And then something extraordinary. What started as applause turned into an unprecedented standing ovation in the House of Lords. Simon Harris, ITV News, Westminster.
Now, as you've been hearing, Baroness Tessa Jowell's speech at the House of Lords was so powerful and emotional, she got a standing ovation and moved many to tears. The former Labour Olympics minister and MP for Dulwich has an aggressive brain tumour. Today, she appealed for more resources and better care for people with cancer. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Tessa Jowell has spent her career speaking up for others, first as a social worker, then as an MP. Today she came back to Parliament for what could be her final political battle. In the House of Lords, she told fellow peers how last May she was diagnosed with the worst kind of brain tumour.
I got into a taxi, but I couldn't speak. I had 2 powerful seizures. I was taken to hospital. 2 days later, I was told that I had a brain tumour, a glioblastoma multiforme.
Tessa Jowell has been in politics for 5 decades. She fought the Ilford North parliamentary by-election in 1978 after serving as a councillor in Camden. She spent 23 years as the MP for Dulwich and West Norwood. Tony Blair made her Culture Secretary, where arguably her greatest triumph was playing a pivotal role in London's bid to host the Olympics. In 2015, Dame Tessa became Baroness Jowell. Today, she was watched by the Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt as she made a plea for brain cancer patients to be allowed to undertake faster trials of new treatments.
I thought it was extraordinary. People that have been in that chamber for many, many more years than I have came up and just simply said they've never witnessed anything like it. And anybody that knows Tessa knows that she was always going to deliver something with passion and direction, and she's going to drive on to achieve what she set out to do.
Baroness Jowell managed to keep her emotions in check as she told peers, "I am not afraid."
In the end, what gives a life meaning is not only how it is lived, but how it draws to a close. I hope that this debate will give hope to other cancer patients like me, so that we can live well together with cancer.
And then something extraordinary. What started as applause turned into an unprecedented standing ovation in the House of Lords. Simon Harris, ITV News, Westminster.